So hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in with the Illinois Small Business Development Center at Chinese Mutual Aid Association. This workshop is being recorded for training purposes. And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please enter them in the chat box below. The Illinois SBDC at CMAA is brought to you through a cooperative agreement with the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity and the U.S. Small Business Administration. Through this partnership, the Illinois SBDC at CMAA provides one-on-one business advising at no cost to all registered clients. These services can range from small business assistance like COVID-19 relief to pre-venture startup. So please sign up today if you need further individual assistance. Next, I'm delighted to welcome our state partners from the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity Office of Minority Economic Empowerment. With us today, we have Deanna Alfaro and Vanessa Uribe. I'd like to personally congratulate Deanna as she was recently honored in Negocios Now, Latinos 40 Under 40, a prominent Latino business publication. And also congratulations to Vanessa as she was recently tapped as Deputy Director and has hit the ground running. Thanks so much for joining us. What's the latest update from DCEO?
Hi, Thomas. Can you hear me okay? Thank you. Thank you for having us. We're very, very excited to partner with you all. Again, my name is Vanessa Uribe. I'm the new Deputy Director at the Office of Minority Economic Empowerment. Our Bureau is really dedicated and committed to providing minority, women, folks with disabilities, veteran-owned businesses and entrepreneurs across the state with equitable access to opportunities and resources. And so what that means is really we are here to provide the technical assistance support, the one-on-one support, the access to information and to resources to those that need it most. We work within DCEO to try to get this work done, and we're working with our partners like the Chinese Mutual Aid Association and the SBA to ensure that we are allocating our very limited capacity and leveraging it to provide you all with these resources. So partnerships are important, our targeted outreach is important, and tailoring our programs so that they're responsive to an inclusive business ecosystem. I'll stop there and I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Deanna Alfaro. And yes, congratulations on the 40 Under 40 with Negocios Now. I'll pass it over to her to just give a few other remarks about some of the other work that we're doing with OMI, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you, Tommy. So I'm Deanna Alfaro, and I work in the Office of Minority and Economic Empowerment. We have business development managers that are here to to support you with your business, help you with any information that you need. Just to let you know, we have what's called the DCEO First Stop Business Info Center. And so if there's information that you're looking for, who can assist you with the programs that the SBA will be talking about today. I know Tommy talked a little bit about how the SBDC, at CMAA can assist you. If you need other resources, the First Stop is a good place to start with. Also, next slide, please. At our agency, there are multiple offices that can assist you. And so what I like to tell business owners is that connect with everyone, right? Build your network, build the individuals to kind of support your business. So at our office, we have what's called a Bureau of Regional Economic Development, also known as Team Red. They're individuals who are assigned to a region that assists all businesses in that region. So in this area, we're considered the Northeast in the Chicagoland area. There are 3 individuals that are assigned to assist all businesses in the Northeast. So definitely connect with your Northeast individual that's assigned. Also connect with us, Office of Minority and Economic Empowerment. We're here to assist you. We're here to assist with anything that you need. So definitely connect with our office. In a moment, I will put in the chat box our link to our listserv so you could sign up. We send information on updates about the federal government, updates from the state, and also any private resources that we're aware about that might assist your business. And then next slide, please. And here's our contact information if you want to get in direct contact with us. Vanessa, Deputy Director of OMI, who spoke first, that's her contact information. Then there's mine. Feel free to call or text me if that's your preferred method of communication, or email, and then our general email box. And I'll put our information in the chat box. So thank you so much for having us today.
Great, sorry. Thank you so much, DCEO, for joining us. Really appreciate all your hard work. If we can stop sharing screen for just a few moments, I'm very delighted to welcome a very special guest with us today. You may have read about him in the news, just making history, but we're so honored to welcome our proud son of the 7th Senate District. In his first few days, Senator Mike Simmons has been meeting with business owners to focus on the economic struggles in our communities, and also to help shape policy and programming to improve livelihood for all our families in the district. Senator, I know it's been a crazy few weeks. This is your first week in Springfield, but thank you so much for joining us today. And I'd like to give you a few minutes to say some special greetings.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I want to just start off by saying hello to everybody. State Senator Mike Simmons for the 7th District, covering the neighborhoods of Uptown, Edgewater, Rogers Park, Lincoln Square, and parts of Evanston. Just want to start off by thanking Tommy Choi for inviting me to be a part of this community today. I want to also acknowledge the Small Business Development Center at Chinese Mutual Aid Association right here in the 7th District in Uptown. I believe it's one of 2 SBDCs in the district. Really appreciate the work that they're doing for our small business owners in this community. We couldn't do this work without him and without his leadership. Also want to acknowledge Bo Steiner over from the district office, Illinois office for the Small Business Administration, also a key leader in making sure that our small businesses are thriving. And of course, Illinois DCEO, which is doing great work for our business owners right on the ground, and I appreciate them. Just real quick, I wanted to just say, as Tommy said, the first thing I've done in my first 4 weeks is really hitting the pavement and talking to our small business owners in this district. I want you all to know that helping independently owned businesses and small businesses is probably one of my top 2 or 3 priorities. A lot of our independent businesses can't thrive if they don't have access to accessible, relevant small business development incentives, right? To be able to stay in business, be able to retain employees, and be able to fix up their awnings and do all the things that you need to run a business. Both of my parents, by the way, were small business owners. My mom ran Salon Pastiche in Rogers Park for 25 years. My dad ran the Wild Heritage Bar in Lakeview. He was an immigrant from Ethiopia. And so this is just a really important issue to me. I plan to be doing numerous town halls. So I want to hear from our small business owners at every opportunity so that I can legislate effectively on your behalf as an advocate. And I also want to invite you to be in touch with me. My website is senatormikesimmons.com. I'll drop that in the chat. Feel free to reach out at any time. My district office is currently located at 5533 North Broadway in Edgewater, and you can contact me at 773-769-1717. So that's a little bit about me, and you know how to get me, and I look forward to meeting many of you in person very soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Simmons. Really appreciate you joining us, and we look forward to working closely with your office. Melanie, if we can pull slides again. Great, I'm very good to special guest from the SBA Illinois District Office, District Director Bo Steiner. On behalf of our SBA network and our Bo Steiner and the SBA Illinois team, all their support during these challenging times. And with that, I'd like to pass it over to Director Steiner. I know there's been a lot of time since we last talked. So Director Steiner, take it from here.
Hey, Tommy, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you okay.
Okay, all right, great, thank you. Well, thanks, Tommy, thanks for having me. I appreciate CMAA hosting this today. State Senator Simmons, always good to see you. I appreciate you joining today as well. And thanks to the DCEO team that is supporting this also. It really takes a team to implement all these programs while they run through the SBA in many cases. We couldn't do what we're doing without all of the support of all the people who've spoken so far on this call. So I want to just thank everybody for all the work to support our small business community. What I wanted to talk today about was just an update on where SBA's programs are. There have been many changes over the past several months that affect many of you who are small businesses and interested in the kinds of financial and other support that may be available to you to support your business or your nonprofit. So we'll get right into that. If we go to the next slide, keep going. So at the latter part of last December 2020, Congress passed some additional legislation that funded several different programs that can really help small businesses and entrepreneurs. We relaunched the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP, in early December. More recently, we've launched the Targeted Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advances, and we have an eye on launching the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant here coming up pretty quick. In addition, on February 22nd, the administration issued some guidelines around the Paycheck Protection Program that should provide for greater access to our smallest businesses and reduce some of the barriers that some businesses face in accessing these programs. So we're going to talk about that a little bit so that y'all understand exactly what's going on there. Next slide. And I'm going to break it out by kind of the types of programs. So we'll talk first about loan programs. And we've got some pretty interesting loan programs that aren't necessarily kind of conventional in many senses. And we'll talk about grants. So those are, funds that do not have to be repaid, which is always a good thing, especially in the circumstances we're dealing with. Next slide. So our biggest program and the highest funded program is the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP. And in this most recent launch of the PPP, it's been appropriated for $284.5 billion. So a significant tranche of funds that's been aligned to the program based on its success in 2020. Now, this is a forgivable loan program, meaning that it is a loan that you apply for and receive through a private sector lender. However, if you use the proceeds in accordance with the program guidelines, you can receive up to 100% forgiveness. And what that really means to me is, hey, if I use these funds appropriately and in line with what the expectations of the program are, then the federal government is going to pay off that loan on my behalf. So really good deal for many small businesses, many sole proprietors, many nonprofits that wouldn't otherwise have access to resources to not only fund their business, but also keep employees on staff. Now, some of the changes from the Economic Aid Act include some adjustments about the use of the proceeds. So when you receive a PPP, you have a certain period of time within which to use those funds for them to be eligible for that forgiveness. And originally it was 8 or 24 weeks that you could use the funds, but now it's any period between 8 and 24 weeks. So it offers more flexibility to you as a small business owner. It also implemented the opportunity to secure a second draw PPP loan, meaning if you received a first draw in the first tranche in 2020, that you could apply for a second draw to hopefully give you some breathing room through the spring and into early summer. So good opportunity there. It is a little bit more targeted than the first draw that we discussed before. Now, just note that even if you haven't received a first draw in 2020, you can apply for a first draw in 2021. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. For those of you that have received a PPP loan, there was some concern about the tax treatment of that amount of forgiveness. The most recent Economic Aid Act dictates that those funds are the forgiveness amount, which would normally be considered income, is not considered that for the purposes of your federal taxes. So great opportunity there, and makes it basically net neutral from a federal tax perspective. It also updated the simplified forgiveness from 50,000 up to 150,000. So that just provides for streamlining of your forgiveness application when you go through that process. And finally, many of you who may have submitted for the PPP forgiveness may have seen a reduction in the amount of forgiveness due to the idle advance that you received in 2020. Congress basically separated those two programs so they don't have any kind of interactivity now. So you will not see that idle advance reduced from any forgiveness going forward. And if you had previously received PPP loan forgiveness and had that reduction, SBA will make you whole from the standpoint of paying off the amount of the idle advance and any associated accrued interest, so that you would not, basically you'd be made whole from the standpoint of not having any reduction in your idle advance. Next slide. Now, on February 22nd, the administration made some changes to help prioritize the PPP for our smallest businesses, the mom and pop shops, our community, those businesses in our community, those Main Street businesses. And this had a couple of different areas where it was focused, but first off was a 14-day period of exclusivity for businesses with fewer than 20 employees. So that's 19 or fewer employees. Began on the 24th and it ends today on Tuesday, March 9th. Now, what I want to clarify is this is not a separate program from PPP. So even if you fit into that 19 or fewer employee, or you're a sole proprietor and you weren't able to get an application in during the period of exclusivity, that doesn't mean that you can't apply now. The final deadline for application is March 31st. So I just want to reinforce that this period of exclusivity is for our standard PPP loan program. And again, even if you didn't get your application in, you can still apply before that March 31st deadline. And as a reminder, you need to work with a private sector lender. This is not a direct loan program. We go through SBA. It goes to the lender, and then they work with us they provide us with the paperwork, we give the approvals, and then they actually lend their funds to you as the borrower. And then, starting tomorrow, we'll start to accept PPP applications from all applicants once again. Next slide. A couple other policy changes that you need to be aware of and can really have a positive impact. So first off is increasing support for independent contractors, sole proprietors, and self-employed individuals. And what's going on here is that we're changing the way that loans are calculated for those of you that are sole proprietors and you report your business income on a 1040 Schedule C. Previously, it was a net profit was the guide for developing your average monthly payroll. Going forward, you have the option to use net profit or gross revenue. So there's an expanded calculation that for many sole proprietors will result in a larger loan amount. We've also changed access requirements for returning citizens by eliminating restrictions for certain ex-felons. So previously, if you had a felony within the last year, you would not be eligible to participate in the PPP program. Now, you are able to go ahead and apply as if that was a circumstance that you were experiencing, you would be able to apply, assuming that you weren't currently incarcerated or it wasn't some kind of financial fraud type of situation. We've also relaxed the prohibition on those who are delinquent on federal student debt applying to the program. And finally, we've changed some of the rules around the requirements for Social Security number or EIN, allowing for the use of the ITIN for those who are lawfully in the country and paying taxes. So again, trying to increase or reduce some of the barriers to some businesses that may not have specific information that we were requiring earlier on in the program. Next slide. So those are the initiatives. Now let's talk a little bit about the PPP itself. So what is a PPP first draw loan? This is basically for those applicants that did not receive a PPP loan prior to August 9th, 2020. Now, some of the eligibility criteria are that you must have been in business by February 15th of 2020. You can set the covered period, as I mentioned before, any length between 8 and 24 weeks. We have some additional types of business entities that are now eligible. And we've got increased covered eligible expenses. So the key thing, as I mentioned earlier, is you need to use the PPP loan proceeds in accordance with the program guidelines, which means that primarily you're looking at payroll costs, You need to spend at least 60% of the proceeds on payroll costs. And then 40% you can use for other business operations costs, but they're specific. It's things like mortgage interest, lease, utilities, worker protection expenses, those sorts of things. So as you're looking at your expenditures, you want to make sure that you align those expenditures with those eligible expenses so you can maximize the amount of forgiveness. As I mentioned, the loan itself is determined by your average monthly payroll. And this is really important. This isn't a credit-based product. This is based on your average monthly payroll. So if I'm a business and I have employees, I'm going to look at either my 2019 or 2020 payroll expenses. I'm going to average it out so that I have a monthly average. And then your loan amount for a first draw PPP is going to be 2.5 times that average monthly payroll cost. So that should give you an idea of what you may be eligible. Again, you must apply on or before March 31st or until the appropriations are exhausted. Next slide. Now, the types of entities that are eligible for the program include sole proprietors, independent contractors, and the self-employed. And that could be anything from, hey, I'm a lawyer and I have my own independent law firm, to, hey, I'm an Uber driver and I have my own business. This is my business. So those are the range. It kind of ranges broadly. Key thing here is you need to somehow account for your self-employed or your business income. And in many cases, that's going to be with your Schedule C, which will be the documentation that's required. Of course, other business entities are also eligible to apply for the program. And as you look at how you calculate your loan amount and which process you would use, you're going to use however you file taxes for your business. So as I mentioned, sole proprietor might be a Schedule C. A S Corp, or I'm sorry, an LLC, maybe an S Corp, maybe some other kind of business entity. So it's based on how you file your taxes. Also, there are many nonprofits, including 501c3s, and newly eligible, you can see 501c6s, destination marketing organizations, et cetera. So pretty broad spectrum of eligible entities. Some of these do have some criteria that are specific and different than the other types of entities. I'm not going to go into that, but just be aware of that. And as you go through the application process, you just want to make sure that your entity and the specifics around your entity are clear. Next slide. So we talked about it was the first time you received your PPP loan. Now now the most recent stimulus allowed for a second draw PPP loan. Now this is much more targeted. A couple of things, couple of differences: PPP first draw to second draw. First draw up to 10 million. Second draw limit is 2 million. First draw, could be up to 500 employees. Second draw, 300 employees. So and really how we're targeting it in to those businesses in the most need are that the second draw, businesses can only have up to 300 employees, and they have to be able to demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross receipts in one quarter in 2020 versus the same quarter in 2019. So, and then the other eligibility criteria is really that you've received a first draw loan and you used all the proceeds on eligible uses. I think it's notable, important to note, or important to be aware that first and second draw PPP loan covered periods cannot overlap. So if I received a PPP first draw right now, I have to wait 8 weeks at least before I can receive a second draw PPP loan disbursement. And again, that 25% reduction, as I mentioned, is one of the criteria. I would, for some of you, it may be easier to look at your annual revenue receipts numbers. And again, that's okay. You can use the annual gross receipts as long as that is also a 25% reduction. Next slide. So let's talk about the process. First, you need to find your lender. So there are a lot of different ways that you can get there. You could go to your bank of record. that you do your business banking with, or your personal banking, and say, hey, are you doing PPP? And I'd like to apply. If your bank of record maybe isn't participating, or they've stopped their acceptance of applications at this point, you can go to sba.gov/lender match, which is a tool that we use to help connect businesses to potential lenders. Or I always recommend contacting an SBA resource partner. So for example, Chinese Mutual Aid Association, they may be aware of lenders in the community that are still providing PPP loans. So reach out to them as well. They can be a tremendous resource. Once you've identified that lender, you're going to want to go ahead and complete the application. Now, this may be a paper application. It could be an online application that the lender has set up so that they can be more streamlined or efficient, whatever the case may be. But you're going to have to pull together documentation to support that application. Now, what I recommend here is before you go ahead and complete the application online or in paper or whatever, is go to the SBA website, sba.gov/PPP, pull down the application that you're looking to use, whether it's a first draw or second draw, 2 different applications there, but also, and probably as important, pull down the document. There's a document for first draw and a separate document for second draw that talks about how to calculate maximum loan amounts for PPP. And what that'll do is it gives you options. It gives you options as to different types of setups. So I'm a sole proprietor. I'm a sole proprietor with employees. I'm an S Corp. I'm a C Corp. I'm a nonprofit. It talks you through and walks you through step by step for each type of example that you might think of. So really great resource and good to look at before you actually go into a system to enter your PPP application. You can also get help from CMAA, but you're going to want to complete the application. What happens then is the lender will submit the information to SBA. We'll review it. We run some checks that are basically validation checks for fraud or for other, just to make sure that it's a complete package. And then at that point, we'll issue a loan number to the lender, and they will be cleared to disperse those funds to you as the borrower. So that's from kind of A to Z, the process for applying for the PPP. Next slide. Now, let's say you go through the process, you receive the loan, you use the proceeds, but you're not able to, when you apply for forgiveness, you don't receive 100% forgiveness. So let's say that you only were able to use 50% on payroll costs. You still use the other 50% on eligible uses, but just because of the needs of your business at the time, you had to use them in that form. So in that case, you wouldn't be able to receive 100% forgiveness, meaning that you would have a loan on that remaining amount that wasn't forgiven with a term of 5 years at 1% interest. Now, there's no collateral or personal guarantees on this loan. There's no fees or prepayment penalties. And it's a 5-year maturity. Now, payments will start once the borrower knows how much of the PPP loan is forgiven, and the lender is going to let you know. And if you don't apply for forgiveness, so let's say that you're just, other stuff comes up and all of a sudden time passes, at the 10-month point from the end of your covered period, you will be required to start making principal and interest payments. So just be aware of that. There is no specific timeline within which you have to apply for forgiveness, but just know that the payments will start 10 months after the last day of the covered period. I would also share, and I get this question a lot, you do have to apply for forgiveness. There's no blanket forgiveness available for loans of any size. So, however, you do have the access to the 3508S application for forgiveness up to $150,000, which is super streamlined. It should be super easy for you to get through. Next slide. So the PPP forgiveness process, it's basically you go through, you collect your documentation, and you want to kind of track this throughout your use of the PPP loan. You complete the application for forgiveness, you provide the associated documentation, and then you provide it to the lender. The lender is going to go ahead and review it, make sure they feel like they've got all the necessary documentation in hand, and then they will go ahead and send that to the SBA. Lender has 60 days for their part. SBA is shooting to get things done within 90 days. SBA will make a decision on the forgiveness amount and then remit the amount of principal and accrued interest to the lender against that PPP loan. Again, there may be some amount where you may receive some amount of forgiveness less than 100%, in which case you would have to pay off that remaining principal and accrued interest over the term of that loan. As I mentioned earlier, EIDL advances are no longer deducted from that loan forgiveness payment. And you can use those expanded forgivable expenses to support any forgiveness process for any unforgiven PPP loan. So even if you received a first draw loan in 2020, this expanded list of forgivable expenses, you can take advantage of those. Next slide. All right, so that's PPP. Again, I guess a couple takeaways, just final deadline is March 31st of 2021. If you haven't received a PPP previously, that would be a first draw then for you. If you have received a PPP first draw, you used all the proceeds in accordance with the eligible or the program guidelines, you had a 25% reduction in at least one gross revenues in one quarter in 2020 versus 2019, and you have 300 or fewer employees, then you are eligible to apply for the PPP second draw. All right, so next program I want to touch on is another loan program, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. Now, many of you may have already applied for the EIDL. This was the first program that we launched in 2020 to respond to the CARES Act. And what the Economic Aid Act did was extend the deadline to December 31st of 2021. This is a working capital loan, direct loan through the SBA. So you apply with the SBA as opposed to PPP, where you apply with private sector lenders. And as I mentioned, it's a long-term loan up to 30 years, 3.75% for businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits. And again, eligible entities include small businesses, cooperatives, and agricultural enterprises with 500 or fewer employees, and private nonprofits. So pretty broad scope there. The current limit or cap on EIDL is $150,000. And if you received an EIDL previously in let's say you received an EIDL in 2020, and you are, you've exhausted most of those funds, you're looking to increase that EIDL, that is a possibility. And we have a FAQ on our website that you can find the EIDL loan through sba.gov/coronavirus, but then you can go and pull down that FAQ, and it has a process that will walk you through applying for reconsideration to increase that loan amount up to that $150,000 cap. Next slide. Now let's talk about a new program, which is Targeted EIDL Advance. So many of you probably remember the initial emergency EIDL advance that came out in 2020 as part of the CARES Act, where businesses received up to a $10,000 grant based on the number of employees. Well, Congress enacted a new program called the Targeted EIDL Advance, and it is focused and targeted towards businesses that applied for an EIDL. It could be a loan or advance in 2020, and they meet the following eligibility criteria: that they are in a low-income community, have suffered greater than 30% economic loss in an 8-week period in 2020 versus a similar period in 2019, and have 300 or fewer employees. Now, if basically the way that we're pursuing this program is that we are looking at first those businesses that applied for and received an EIDL advance of less than $10,000. So if I received an EIDL advance of less than $10,000, then I'm eligible for, well, I'll receive an email invitation to apply for the targeted EIDL advance. Then what's going to happen is you'll go into the portal, you'll update your information, and assuming that you are in a low income community, meet the economic loss requirements, meet the employee number requirements, and all the other eligibility requirements are met, then you will receive the balance of the targeted EIDL advance to get you up to $10,000 between the original emergency EIDL advance and the targeted. So if you receive $4,000 in the emergency EIDL in 2020, you'd be eligible for an additional $6,000, not up to, an additional $6,000 to bring your balance up to that full $10,000. So that's the first group that we're working on, is those that received at least some amount of EIDL advance less than $10,000. The second group we're going to reach out to is going to be that group that didn't receive an EIDL advance because we exhausted all the funds. So again, we'll go through a similar process. We'll invite applicants to apply to the targeted EIDL advance. We'll validate the eligibility criteria. And then for those that meet the eligibility criteria, they'll receive a $10,000 targeted EIDL advance grant. All right, next slide. Now, if you receive this invitation to participate in the targeted EIDL program, we encourage you to have your 2019 federal tax return on hand, because there will be information that we need from that. You want to make sure that you're using the same EIN SSN that was on your original EIDL application. And you're going to have to document your gross receipts for 2019, 2020, and completed months in 2021. This is to validate that 8-week loss in revenue, that 30% loss in revenue during that 8-week period. You're going to confirm that the information in the original EIDL application is still accurate, and you may be required to sign a Form 4506T so that we can obtain your tax transcripts for advance approval. I can say that we started the process a little bit ago, and we have started issuing these grants. So businesses, nonprofits, sole proprietors have started receiving these grants, which is great news. Again, this is not something where you can go and apply for it now. You will be invited to apply to the program. Next slide. All right, and then application process. I kind of went through this. Biggest thing that I'm going to mention here is just as you go through, if you are invited to participate or to apply for the targeted EIDL, be super careful with the information you put in. Carefully review your bank account information, all the other information you provide, because if it's incorrect, it is unlikely that we will be able to, there's no real reconsideration process, let me put it that way, in this process. So if the information is inaccurate, then, and you are declined for the targeted EIDL advance, there's no options to protest that decision. Now, if you're approved, you'll receive an email and the deposit to the bank account you've provided. So I think you probably remember in the first round of the emergency EIDL, the money would just show up in your account. In this case, you will also get that email notification. Next slide. Okay, this is a high interest program. It's somewhat niche in that it serves a very specific group of businesses and nonprofits. It's a Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. It's a $15 billion program, and it offers grants of up to $10 million. The eligible entities, it's really focused in on those live venue operators, theatrical producers, performing arts organizations, museums, talent reps, and there are very specific physical and operating characteristics of these organizations that they must have in place in order to participate in the program. Must have been in operation since February 29th, and at this point in time must not have applied for or received a PPP loan in this most recent tranche of funds. So that's after December 27th, 2020. Now, this program has not opened for application yet. We're working through that. If we go to the next slide, there are some things you can do right now if you believe that your organization could potentially benefit from this program. You can go ahead and get registered in the System for Award Management. This is a federal government system that we use to track those applicants for financial assistance through the federal government. So you're gonna wanna go through that. You're gonna wanna review the updated, the frequently asked questions video tutorials on sba.gov/SVO grant. We also just put an eligibility grid on the website, as well as a list of potential of documents that we may ask for as part of the application process. So I highly recommend that you go to sba.gov/SVO grant or SVOG, either one will work. And there's loads of information there. Good idea to also determine your potential grant amount, and it'll be the lesser of 10 million, or if you're in operation for the full year of 2019, 45% of your 2019 gross earned revenue. If you began operation after January 1st, 2019, you can see it's the average monthly gross revenue for each full month in operation during 2019 multiplied by 6. So that's how you're going to calculate your loan. Many entities have determined, if you look at it, PPP versus SVO, it may be more beneficial to do PPP or SVO. So you want to do that comparison before applying to one or the other. Next slide. And this is just a grid. You can find it on our website. I'm not going to go through it, but it just talks about some of the synergies between the programs, and also those where if you receive one, you can't receive the other. Next slide. Also wanted to touch on some of the SBA-backed loan debt relief. This is for those of you who have an SBA guaranteed loan. That's typically, in our nomenclature, the 7A, 504, or microloan. SBA is making a certain amount of principal and interest payments on behalf of the borrower. Depending on your situation, the number of months that would be paid, it varies. So you're going to want to reach out to your lender if you think you may be eligible for this, to understand how this program affects you. Good news is there's a lot of funding that's going out there to help businesses that have these loans so that they can apply their working capital in other places. Next slide. All right. So a lot of information we just went through, a lot of different programs that are out there to help you. But I always like to, we'll get into some Q&A. Hopefully there are some questions out there that we can tackle in the meantime. But before I get there, next slide. Know that there are a lot of resources here in Illinois to help you with all of this stuff. You're in the right place right now with CMAA, Small Business Development Center. SBA provides funding that goes towards the SBDC network here in the state of Illinois. It's run through Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity for the state. So I highly recommend you reach out to CMAA or any SBDC across the state for assistance there. We also support SCORE, which is a nonprofit organization with tremendous expertise across a range of industries and kind of functional areas. And they do a great job of mentoring small business owners to maximize their success. We also have 2 women's business centers, one in Chicago and one in Aurora, who also provide great technical assistance to women business owners, especially those in low to moderate income communities. You can find any of these resources at sba.gov/local-assistance. And again, all of the services that I'm sharing here are at no cost to you as a business owner. We also have 2 offices in Illinois. We have one in Chicago and one in Springfield. So we are here to assist you as well. And I'll have some contact information in a second. One thing I would note is, as it relates to PPP, the district office is currently hosting office hours on a daily basis, different times in the day, to just answer questions and hopefully help people navigate the various programs that are available right now. So I encourage you to go to our website, go to Eventbrite and look up events available through the SBA, and you'll find that there are many options for you to get more information or ask your questions specifically through those venues. Next slide. Lastly, ways that you can stay connected. We have an e-newsletter. We're on Twitter. We, at the national level, do some work on Instagram, but you can also email us in Illinois at illinois.do@sba.gov. You can call us. Here's some really great websites that I encourage you to take a look at if you're interested in Paycheck Protection Program or really any of the programs. You can find a tremendous wealth of information. We try to use really plain language so that it's, it helps everybody understand how the programs apply to them. And, that's as opposed to like really technical kind of stuff that, anyway, so lots of really good information there, FAQs that can hopefully answer most of your questions. So I encourage you to go there as well. Next slide. All right, that's what I thought. Figured we're in the mode for questions. So I don't know if there's any questions out there. It doesn't look like there's any in the Q&A, but happy to answer any questions that I might be able to for anyone in the group.
Great. Well, thank you so much for the presentation and breaking down this information. I think re-emphasizing a couple points from your presentation may be helpful for clarification. So one of the questions that we often get a lot, this is the 14-day window period. This is not a new program, but special consideration that's given. And even after the 14-day period, people can still apply. Could you provide clarification on this?
Sure. So basically the 14-day period, what that meant was that we would only accept new applications for the Paycheck Protection Program from businesses that met that criteria of having 19 or fewer employees, to include sole proprietors, self-employed, or independent contractors. Now, that doesn't mean that if you fit into that group, that you can't go ahead and apply after the period of exclusivity ends. So again, even if you can't get today, the period of exclusivity ends, you can apply for PPP tomorrow. This was just a period within which you had special priority to apply when compared to other larger businesses. So I think that's really important. But again, this is still the Paycheck Protection Program. That's what it is. It's not a new program. It's not anything different from the standpoint of the actual programmatic requirements, and that you apply through your private sector lender, whoever you may choose. So that's where I see a lot of confusion, is people are like, well, do I send my PPP application during this period of exclusivity to SBA? And it's like, no, please don't. Please send it to, you need to go to your lender, because that's where the loan gets done.
Thank you. And then, but we get a lot of questions just on like payment of, I'm paying back the PPP loan. I think just real quickly, just kind of providing clarification, when does payment period start after the covered period, and kind of breaking down that formula again, just one more time?
Sure. Yeah. So basically, I'll kind of break it down like this. You have, from the end of your covered period, which is that 8 to 24 week period, from the end of that 8 to 24 week period, you have 10 months before you have to start making principal and interest payments on that PPP loan. So if you don't apply for forgiveness, then you're going to start making principal and interest payments on the full amount of that PPP loan. Now, let's say you apply for forgiveness and 90% of the loan is forgiven, then let's say it's a $100,000 PPP loan, $90,000 is forgiven. That means that SBA will pay $90,000 plus any accrued interest on that loan on your behalf. And then you're going to be responsible for the remaining $10,000 and any accrued interest over the remaining term of that loan, which is at 5 years at 1%.
And both from a high level perspective, what should we be telling our community regarding the PPP updates regarding sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, and independent contractors?
Yeah, so right now the biggest change number one is you're eligible to participate in PPP. I think that's the biggest message, is like, don't think that because you don't have employees that you're not eligible. You have one employee, maybe. Let's say I'm self-employed. I have one employee and it's me. So this can serve as income replacement for you as a sole proprietor. But even, but same thing, if you're a 1099 independent contractor, you're an independent business. If you're self-employed, you're an independent business. So make sure that you're taking advantage of this program because you are eligible. Second piece is there are certain lenders that are supporting the new calculations for the Paycheck Protection Program loan calculation methodology for sole proprietors. Find those lenders. Take advantage of what is likely an increase in the loan amount that you may be eligible for. Now, the kind of bad news, I guess, that I have to share is that if your loan has already been dispersed, your PPP loan has been dispersed, you're an independent contractor, and the lender has reported that information to SBA, you can't change a previously dispersed loan. So I'm sorry about that, but that's just the way the policies work for us. But for those new loans, you are eligible for that new calculation, which could make a big difference.
So in regards to the targeted EIDL advance, how do I know if I fall into one of those priority groups? And is this something that I can apply for, or do I need to wait for invitation by the SBA office?
Sure, you need to wait for an invitation to apply. There is no open application at this point in time. How you'll know that you're eligible is, number one, did I apply for the emergency EIDL advance in 2020 and receive some amount of funding less than $10,000? That's going to be our first group. Second group will be those that applied but didn't receive any funds because funds were exhausted. So both of those groups should receive an invitation to apply and verify information, because we want to make sure whether you are or not in a low-income community. Now, if you want to check and see if you're in what we consider a low-income community, you can go on our website. There is a mapping tool where you can put in your address, and this is your business address, to identify whether your business is in a low-income community. So I encourage you to go check that out. It's on a census tract basis. So it gets pretty, especially in a city like Chicago, which is high density population, it can be a pretty small group or geographic area that may be low income compared to its neighboring census tracts. So you really want to go and check that out.
And Bo, my final question, I always ask you this every time. So for the clients and folks that are feeling a little bit overwhelmed, what are your recommendations to get this process started for both the first draw PPP loan and even the second draw PPP loan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing you can do is, reach out to Small Business Development Center, SCORE, or Women's Business Centers. If you don't know where to go, you don't know who to talk to, great resources, because they understand the programs. They also understand small business. They can help connect the dots for you. I think also like chambers of commerce, local economic development organizations, even, some of the government representation at the local level has information about participating lenders and other resources that are available. So take advantage of your network to help support your access to these programs. But I do want to always highlight our resource partners, as we call them, SBDC, SCORE, Women's Business Centers, because they are incredibly knowledgeable and have tons of resources to help you.
Great. Thank you so much to our distinguished district director, Bo Steiner. It's been kind of a crazy year, but we really appreciate your leadership, all your hard work. Thank you so much to the entire SBA Illinois team. We couldn't do this without you guys, so thank you so much. I'd also like to thank our state partners from DCO OMI, Vanessa, Deanna, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, our very special guest, Illinois State Senator Mike Simmons. I'd like to give a final thanks to our community partners, Karu Watanabe of the Cambodian Association of Illinois, Chinese American Bar Association of Chicago, the Filipino American Lawyers Association of Chicago, and then HANA Center. Thank you so much, Jennifer Brown, for joining, Indo-American Center, and then the Uptown Chamber of Commerce. So from all of us at Illinois SBDC at CMA, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again next time.